Welcome to Ed Talk, where this show talks about all things financial. I have a great guest today. Wait, first of all, I got to talk about the Bears. The Bears are my favorite team in the world. All you ATL people, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But hey to the Bears. Hey to everyone out there listening to Ed Talk on Intellectual Radio. Welcome. So first I want to say hi, Paula. And I actually that Detrick's on the line, her husband. Hi, Detrick. So I want to say hello to Paula. Paula has been, let me see. I've known I'm sorry. First of all, this show is about one of the best financial coaches that I know, Paula Jenkins. I've been knowing her. Let me see how long have I been knowing you, Paula?
What is like 40 plus years?
Just say since we were about 7 years old, maybe 7 years old. Paula also followed me to Tuskegee when I went there. She she couldn't live without me. Uh, so thank you for following me to Tuskegee. We had great times there. HBCUs all across America have just educated some young black minds. So I want to introduce Paula. Um, Paula Jenkins is the founder and CEO of LFS Consulting LLC. As a founder and owner of LFS as Consulting LLC, which specializes in leadership and financial success. Paula brings hope to complicated financial situations. As a financial coach, Paula helps people understand where their money is going and how to get a handle of their personal money challenges. Paula is Paula is a DISC certified consultant and a Ramsey preferred financial coach. One of Paula's goals is to evoke hope where there appears to be none and ensure people become better stewards of their money. Her mission is to educate and encourage financial wellness through individual, group, and corporate coaching and wellness workshops. She focuses on the importance of building an emergency fund, thing that I always talk about, creating and following a budget, paying down debt, and focusing on generational wealth. Paula, you've obviously been listening to me because those are the things that I every preach every day. Here's a quote from Paula. Sometimes people do not have hope. They can't see hope and don't know how to move forward. Personal debt can be overwhelming. She says, I do what I do because I want to help people see a different way. Wow, Paula, that's deep. That's deep. So tell me about who you are and why you what is your passion? Because I know you have to have a passion to do this. People need to trust you, and we need to talk about that. So tell me about Paula. Why did this become a passion of yours?
Yeah, thank you, Ed. So I think one of the things that I'm very passionate about is financial literacy and leadership. They really do go hand in hand. But the reason I got into this is I recognized many years ago, we are not taught financial basic literacy. We are not taught it. We are not taught it at the grammar school level. We're not taught at the high school level or even the college level. I remember our wonderful days at Tuskegee and how easy it was to get a credit card and how we almost sold our lives for a t-shirt and how we got all these things that we thought were so cool. And then we all left with thousands of dollars in debt with credit cards. So very early on, I recognized there was an issue. And I also recognized that if you don't know what to do, you continue doing the same thing over and over again. And for many of those in our generation, I think that is exactly what happened, is we continue to build debt, not save, and just not know where to go. And I've been doing what I call the side hustle of this for years and trying to help friends with budgeting. And I think probably about 10 years ago, I looked at our W-2s and I recognized how much money I had brought in and we had brought in. And we both looked at each other and said, wow, where's the money? And just recognize it was time for a change. So I've been very passionate about trying to help people. And you do have to trust people. You have to trust them. We don't talk about money. Nobody's comfortable talking about it. People are embarrassed about it. But people are really suffering. And so when I say I try to bring hope to complicated life situations, I mean that. People just sometimes cannot see hope when it comes to their finances.
So I want to talk about this because this is something I always talk about with friends, family, clients. As a Black child growing up in a household, lots of times parents have not really. It was always a secret. Bills were always a secret. You didn't really know what your parents made. You didn't really know what the bills were. So you think that actually plays a factor in why we are not, I would say, successful stewards of money as we get older?
Absolutely, it plays a huge part in that. I think when you don't have a conversation early on with your children, it's almost a mystery. Money becomes a mystery. And when you don't talk about it, that means you're not being educated about it. It's the one thing that I have tried really hard with my own child to talk about money and talk about, even when we talk about how much money we make. I always say that doesn't leave this house. You don't need to go tell people, but you need to understand what it means to make a certain amount, what it means to have a budget, what it means when you have your own money, what that looks like. When we go on trips, I give my child an allowance, and that's her allowance for the day, helping her understand if you want this, it comes out of that money you're getting. We didn't do that as kids. And so trying to understand how to educate our children plays a huge role in how you deal with money. It's the same thing I talk with my clients. It's one of the first things I want to ask them is talk to me about your behavior with your money, how you grew up with money, how do you feel about it? It absolutely plays a role in what your behavior is with money as an adult.
And so basically every client's not going to be the same. And I always tell my clients that when you go to the doctor, the doctor, what does the nurse give you when you first walk in the door? They give you a history sheet, okay, and that history sheet is going to be the sheet that the doctor is going to look at to kind of figure out what's wrong. And so I am sure that you take a similar approach to it. So walk me through your approach. So I call Miss Paula Jenkins, and and I'm gonna be a potential client. Kind of walk me through that process.
Yeah, so the first thing I do is, I always encourage anybody to at least set up a 30-minute consultation with me. Everybody's not ready to be my client, and I'm okay saying that. And here's why that 30-minute consultation is important. I need to hear where you are. I need to hear what your goals are. I need to hear, are you really ready? That's an important piece of this relationship. And so after that 30 minutes, I'm going to determine, am I good for you and are you good for me? Why is that important? If you are not ready, I don't care about money and charging and all that. What I care about is if I can't help you right now, what's the point? And I'm going to sidetrack for a second. I had a client who, a year prior to her signing on, wanted to sign up, and I recognized she wasn't ready. And she recognized she wasn't ready. And I said, when you're ready, you come back. And a year later, she came back and literally made wonderful strides in about 5 months. That's an important part of this process. It's okay if a person's not ready right now. I don't want to waste their time, and I hope they don't waste my time. So the first thing is let's do the consultation. And once we do that, and if I recognize we're both ready, you're the right client, and you're ready to make some change, then it's really getting down to the numbers. It's talking about what your numbers look like. Yes, it's income, it's a debt. It's looking at that. It's talking about, do you know how to budget? A lot of people just don't know what a budget is. It's talking about what that looks like. It's talking about needs versus wants. That's an important piece of your financial health. There's a lot of things we spend our money on that it's just not a true need. I talk a lot with my clients about, let's start with the four basic things. You got to have a house or apartment. You have to have that housing. You've got to have food. You've got to have basic clothing, and then you've got to have transportation to get to work if you need to get to work. Those are the four things. Let's make sure our money can be covered there. If your income can't cover that, I don't really care about anything else, and that includes debt. So we really dig into what your needs are, how much that is. We talk about percentages around how much you should be spending in each area, and then we get down to the debt. Right now, a lot of us have a ton of debt, whether it's credit cards, student loans, housing. It's looking at that and seeing how far and how long it's going to take us to get out of debt. And then once we get through that, then it becomes, now it's time to start tracking your expenses. You got to know where your money's going. It's real easy to sit here and say, I make more than enough money, but do you really know how much money you're spending in each area? So the process really is going deep into what you are doing on a regular basis, and then going back to what your goals are.
So let's kind of backtrack. So when you say ready, I'm gonna assume that ready would mean that they're open to your process, and they're open to letting someone in order to help them. It's kind of like going to the doctor. You have to be open to letting the doctor help you. So would that be the correct assumption right there?
That is absolutely correct. And here's why. So here's what I tell my clients. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to argue. If I'm giving you a recommendation, I am hoping that you trust me enough to recognize when I'm looking at your full situation, I'm trying to help. You have to be ready to listen. You have to be ready to make changes. I talk a lot about intentionality when it comes to our money and our behavior. I talk a lot about short-term changes. Some things I may ask you to do doesn't mean it's going to be long-term. I have a client who I asked her, what's important to you? And she talked about Netflix is really important to me. Okay, all right, that's fine. Then we put the other things in the budget that maybe aren't as important, where we can save some money. So you have to be ready to make changes. You have to be ready to listen. There's just nothing worse than having somebody who says they're going to do something and they don't do it. I give homework, I give follow-ups, and if you aren't going to do that, believe me, I'm going to say this is not the right relationship. And I've had a client who I said, I think it's time for me to fire you. And I think she didn't think I was serious, but I don't want to waste her time or my time. And she got it together and is making great progress. But it was important for me to say that because I want you to make sure that you are ready for the process.
So, Paula, I want to just say that Yvette says, "Hey, Paula." So Paula, you spent 20 years in corporate America. Sorry, as you speak to clients, how do you leverage your experience in your practice?
That's a good question. So, when I was in corporate America, I dealt with all types of clients, all types of projects, all types of people. And during that time, you have to look at every project, every client, every person differently. You have to meet people where they are. You have to understand that if this person not going to be the same as the next person. This project not going to be the same as the next project. So anytime I'm meeting someone, their story is really important. I have to know who they are, what their background is, what their goals are. So I take the same approach as I did in corporate America. It's making sure that I am intentional, and that's my favorite word, intentional. I'm intentional about working with the person, understanding where they are. One person, their focus may be heavily on, I want to buy a home. Somebody else may be, look, I'm $10,000 in debt and I want to get rid of this debt. Somebody else may be, look, I just want to retire in 5 years. So every single person is different. And it's really important to understand that by each person. If I take one approach with everybody, it's just not going to work. Now, it doesn't mean that I may not actually have the same philosophy with each person, but I want to look at each person's personal story first before we start talking about what's next.
So we're gonna go to COVID because obviously we're in this major pandemic, um, um, and I'm sure that this has affected the budget, the budgets of different households. Honestly, I think it's affected some in a good way and some in a bad way. And the reason I say that, I'm going to get your opinion about this as well, because I've actually saved more money in COVID than I have in my whole life. I'm going to tell you, when you have to actually cook your own food and go grocery shopping for 2 weeks to make sure that well not go in the store. I use a service to actually bring the food there, but now you have to actually but you have to actually so you can actually see what you want to eat prior, order the food online because you're seeing it. You're actually not going in the store
Yep.
and picking things out that you wouldn't that you didn't want to buy in the first place. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on budgeting during COVID?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is some positive things that come out of it and some negative. And I think, I'll start with definitely the negative piece of it. So here's what I would say. For those who actually had an income loss, clearly what has come to fruition is this idea of how important an emergency fund is. People have heard it. We've talked about it. I don't think people really understood how important it is to have an emergency fund. If nothing else, the last 6 months have showed us you need to have an emergency fund. I tell my clients, and I have clients that I get they're new, and I'll ask them how much do they have, and they say zero. It's the first thing I ask them. Let's focus on that. I used to say just in the beginning, let's do $1,000. Now I'm saying no, let's try to save up $2,000 because again, it's different times. And so the negative part of this has just been recognizing that from an income perspective, from an emergency fund perspective, people we're not ready. The flip side of it is absolutely, you're right. There's a lot of things that we're learning about. We're not spending as much money on transportation. Now, here's what I'll say about the food part. So
Right.
some people, yes, they're spending less because they're not going out as much, entertainment and those kind of things. But food prices have gone up. So in some cases, the grocery bill is actually higher. People have gotten tired of cooking. I think the first couple of months, lots of us cooked at home, and now is the last couple of months we've gotten bored and said, yeah, I'm gonna, use Grubhub or all these other, things that people use, and it's extremely expensive. And so there's a part of this where you start recognizing, okay, I need to be looking at my budget a little bit more carefully because I am spending so much money in certain areas that I may not have been spending as much before. So I think there's been positive and negative, but if nothing else, I am hoping that people understand the importance of not only the emergency fund, but also being very mindful of where their money is going, especially when it comes to dining out and eating out and entertainment.
So thank you for that. What are some of the more challenging aspects of coaching some of your clients? Because I know you have, in it could be good or bad. I mean, challenging doesn't really mean bad. It's just that maybe that client may have some more challenges than an average client. So let's just talk about that.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things I would say is, let me first start by saying it doesn't matter about income. And so sometimes I think people immediately say, I just don't make enough money. Now, some cases that is absolutely true. But I have clients that make as little as $50,000 and those who make well over $200,000 in income, all in between that. And so the challenge sometimes is this idea I have to make more money. And I always say, let's stop. It's about behavior. It's your behavior with your money. It is not necessarily that you need to go make more money. I have had clients that make well over $100,000 saying, I need to get a second and third job. No, you don't. You got to stop eating out. Part of it is, making sure people understand that, when I'm trying to help them, it is not to make them feel bad. It is really about, let's look at your numbers. Let's look at what you're doing. Let's look at your behavior. What is important to you? I talk a lot with my clients about needs versus wants. There's a lot of things that we spend our money on. It's wants. And so I drill down on wants. But sometimes clients are not ready to hear that, which goes back to what I said in the beginning about it's really important. You have to be ready. If you're not ready for me to tell you, maybe getting your hair done every 2 weeks right now, short term, is not the right thing. Maybe eating out 5 days a week isn't the right thing right now. Can we move that down to 2 times a week? If they're not ready, that becomes a challenge, because I want to make sure that if I'm giving recommendations, that they're going to make them. There's no sense in us meeting if you're not going to, make those changes. And again, it doesn't come down to how much money I make. It's about the behavior and what you do with your money, and how serious you are. And so that can be very challenging as a coach, because again, my intent here is to help. My intent is to absolutely help people who cannot, again, see hope. They are so frustrated. They're hiding in the shadows. They don't talk about money, and it's frustrating. And they're honestly, they're suffering in silence. And that is the piece that I try so hard to make sure that I'm helping my clients with is I get it. I have been there. And so at the end of the day, just having somebody to trust and to help you be accountable is critical. And so that can be very hard as a coach when somebody's not ready.
So Paula, you're gonna laugh at this, but you sound like my weight loss coach. She said, "Hey, they say the exact same things. I'm listening to you, and I'm like, well, that sounds like Jackie Edwards over
Yes.
over at Travis Garza." But another great Tuskegee person as well. Okay, and she's done a lot for me as well. So, but also now, what are the top three things that you can do today to get some type of financial peace?
Yeah, great question. So, one of the first things I would say is, do you have an emergency fund? And I know for a lot of people that is daunting. Just even think about, well, how do I even do that? And like I said earlier, I used to say, save $1,000. Again, I'm encouraging my clients to never save $2,000, but let's figure out a way to do it. That's one of the first things to do, is make sure you have that, because guess what? Emergencies happen. They do. And too often when we don't have an emergency fund, where do we go to? Credit cards, loans. No, if we at least have an emergency fund, that helps. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is tell your money where to go. So I call it a cash flow plan, a budget. You can call it whatever you want, but list out where you want your money to go. The third thing is track your expenses. These three things get you started at the basic level of understanding the financial wellness of where your life is. And I think if you can at least start there, it gives you a picture of where you are, what's going on, and maybe even where to start. And I know sometimes it can be very daunting. I absolutely get it. And so a lot of times I say we take one at a time. Just let's figure out how we can save the emergency fund. Let's figure out what app or what document you want to use to create your budget. And then the third piece is, yes, let's track your expenses. Every time you spend money, I need you to absolutely write that down. Let's look at that over the course of a couple of weeks and let's see what's happening. There is a behavior there. There's absolute consistency on what you're doing. But those are three things that I would say absolutely just start there.
So, I do want to ask you. So, what is a financial coach? So, I'm having problems with actually with my finances, and most people don't even know what a financial coach is, and how do I know that I really need a financial coach? You kind of walk me through that, if you will.
Great question. So I think a lot of times we get compared to financial advisors. And so a financial coach is a person who helps you with your behavior with money. The financial advisor helps you with your money in terms of the behavior of your money when investing. And so I always tell people is I'm the person who you should be working with before you get to the investment piece, before you get to trying to figure out what you need from an insurance and investment. Once we can figure that out, then I send them to somebody like you, Ed, who can help them with insurance, who can help them with some investment, who can help them with the piece that I don't do, I'm not even interested in doing. I'm really interested in getting to the behavior of your money. Why do you do the things that you do? Understanding how you spend your money. There's no way you can get to this investing in all these other things if you don't even understand where your money is going, or if you could even afford it. So the coach is the person who's really helping you dive into, again, what am I doing? Where's my money going? Am I overspending? In a lot of cases, most financial advisors, they can actually help you with that too. But at the end of the day, they're really there to help you with investing. And so I always say, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't even advise on investments. I don't talk about insurance. I may say you may need this, but again, I'll send them to Ed Beavers and say, you need to call him and get the information with his insurance investments. But that is not what I do. What I am doing is trying to work with you before we even get to that point to say, okay, do you even have any extra money left over after you do your budget? Are you ready for investing? Because again, if you are saddled with debt right now, investing is the last thing I want you to be focused on. I want you to be focused more on how to get rid of this debt.
So I want to take a short break to tell you that this is Ed Beavers with Ed Talk. We come on every Sunday evening at 5 p.m. Central Time, and we're also on IntellectualRadio.com. So Paula, I'm going to ask you what usually when someone starts to actually start a business, something has happened in their life to want to help, actually help people. What is it in your life that led you to this journey on being a coach?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I think we talked about, I was in corporate America for about 20 years. And when I left a very toxic environment. And at the time, I was trying to figure out what was my next step. And I have been, again, very passionate about leadership and leadership development as well as financial literacy. And I don't know, probably about 5-10 years ago, I took a class in my church, and it was called FPU. And it taught me a lot of things that I think I kind of knew, but it really put me in a place of, wow, I wish I would have known this 20 years ago. And so when I decided that I was going to leave corporate America and start my own business, I knew that part of what I wanted to do was to help people, number one, not make the same mistakes I've made. But also I recognize that I have a passion for helping people. I truly try to be a very servant leader in making sure that what I do helps others. And so I decided that this was part of what my business would be, which is educating people. And that even starts with youth. We know how much, again, how important it is to teach our youth. So for me, it really was recognizing that I love helping. I want to make sure that people don't suffer in silence. I will tell you the number of clients that I have that I have heard that, I wouldn't tell anybody else this stuff. You know what I mean? And so that tells me there's a trust factor. People who don't talk about this and don't want to talk about it with anybody. So that plays a huge part in what I do, is being trustworthy and recognizing that I can help people. And I did a lot of this on my own while I was working in corporate America for years. I would help friends on the side. And here I am, many years later doing it as the full-time job.
So, Paula, we have a caller on the line. Where are you from, and do you have a question or a statement? Hello,
I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, I'm from Chicago. When you're in the process of paying your debt, should you still be saving for retirement?
That's a really good question. Really good question. So here's what I would say. As a coach, I would first look at your personal situation. I think when we talk about trying to pay down debt, my initial reaction could definitely be, focus on the debt, don't do retirement. But it also depends on how much debt you have, how old you are, what your goals are. And so a lot of what I would want to focus on is, a plan. Look at all these different things to kind of figure out what makes the most sense. When people are saddled with debt, it's very hard to be focusing on retirement because honestly, a lot of times they don't have enough money to do that. In some cases, depending upon their age and the goals, we may be able to say maybe it's minimal saving for retirement, but I would want to really look at the numbers and look at how much debt you have and then figure out what makes the most sense.
Thank you for calling, caller. It was just a moment, Paula. We have another call coming in. Hello, caller. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Jackie, and I'm calling from Tennessee.
Hello, Jackie.
Hi, I had a question for Paula.
Okay, she's listening.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. My question was, I'm a middle-aged woman and I have relatively no savings, pretty high debt to equity ratio, and I'd like to know what would be the starter or what would you think is the right way for me to move into working?
So I think what I heard is she has a high debt to equity ratio and how to start building wealth. Is that what I heard?
She said she had a high debt to income ratio, meaning basically she had more debt than the income that she had coming in, and basically sounds like she wanted to know what should she focus on, that the debt first, and being retirement, or and I think that was her question.
Okay, so similar to the last caller, I would say, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. One of the things that I think it's so critical to try to pay off debt. We are sometimes so saddled with so much debt. If we can get rid of that, then you have far much more money to actually save for retirement and all of that. I will say, again, it's really important to look at each person's situation separately, only because I want to understand the whole picture. I want to understand where they are, goals, age, family, all those kind of things, how much debt you have. But I will say that a lot of times when we have debt, we're paying 30% in credit card interest or those kind of things, but yet we're investing, but we're not paying down the debt. There's a disconnect there. So we definitely want to make sure we're paying down the debt and focusing on that and then retirement. But again, I would still want to look at each person's situation separately.
Okay. Caller, how are you? What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, my name is Charmaine, and I'm calling from Georgia. So my question is, if you are working to pay off debt, what should you consider paying off first? Should it be your credit cards or student loans? So if you have, both going on there, which one should you consider paying off first?
Great question. So what I would say is, so I work with my clients on what's called the debt snowball. And so what we do is we line up all the debts that you have from smallest to largest. And then we work on the smallest debt first. So whether that's your student loan or your credit card or whatever the debt is, whatever the smallest one is, start there. The reason why we do that is we want you to be intentional. Again, remember I said that's my favorite word. Be intentional about paying off debt. When you start focusing on the smallest one and you pay that off, there is a sense of accomplishment. When you are intentional about that smallest one, then you pay that off. You take whatever amount you were paying at the minimum amount, use that and add it to the next debt and start paying off the second debt. And you continue to do that in a snowball way, and you start paying that off until you get to the end. So regardless of whether it's student loan or credit card, put all of your debts in order from smallest to largest and start paying off the smallest one first.
So again, this is Ed Beavers with Air Talk, and you are listening to the phenomenal Paula Jenkins, financial coach, on Air Talk. So we're here every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are on IntellectualRadio.com. Paula, I have a question. Give me one easy financial habit to actually fix or correct.
I can give you lots of them.
Well, give me 1, 2, 3. I'm fine with it.
Okay. I'll give you a few. So here's one of the things that I tell people, especially right now. So take a look at all the subscriptions you have, all the apps, all the subscriptions. This is an area that we just don't talk about. I many years ago got rid of cable. Best thing I could have ever done. But what I recognize is I also have like 5, 6, 7 different subscriptions. And I'm not going to name them all. I'm not going to give them the airtime, but start looking at those. Take a look at all of these subscriptions you have, whether it's, for TV, whether it's apps, whether it's magazines, all these things that come up annually. There's things that come up annually that we forget about and we just pay like, oh, okay, fine. And we forget about it, we don't cancel it. Take a look at that. Those are easy fixes. And I get it. Sometimes somebody, I've had clients say, well, Paula, it's only $14.99 a month. Okay. And over a year, how much is that? That could be going to a bill. That could be going to retirement. So take a look at some of these things that we're paying on a regular basis and say, do I really need it? I'm going to go back to what I say all the time. needs versus wants. I get it. In the COVID area, there's certain apps that have been great for us, right? Watching TV, but there's others that have not been. So I would say some of the easy stuff that's one of them. The other thing is when you think about food, I get it. As I said earlier, some of us have gotten tired of cooking. And so we've started eating out more, but be careful with that. Limit yourself. Again, I'm not going to give the airtime, but there's some of these places that deliver that you are paying a ridiculous amount of money when it comes to delivery and spending. Why? Now, unless you own stock in it, go for it. But if you don't, pull back. So to me, those are just a couple of things that I think right now you can do. Again, subscriptions, apps, and eating out.
So, Paula, what I have not done is we have not told anyone how to reach you. Websites, numbers, we got all this great information, and they don't know how to reach you. How would they reach you, Paula?
All right, so a couple of places. You can go to my website, www.lfsconsult.com, lfsconsult.com. You can go out there. I encourage you all, if you want to just have a 30-minute consultation with me, it's free. Please feel free. Click on the financial coaching, set up some time, click on my calendar. I'm more than happy to meet with you. You can also check me out LinkedIn under Paula Jenkins, Facebook, LFS Consulting LLC. Again, LFS Consulting LLC on Instagram as well. Any of those places. But I would just say start with my website, lfsconsult.com.
I did have a question about the designation. I didn't know what it meant. When I was I was reading your bio, I'm like, okay, what does DISC certified mean? What is that? And then the second part of that question is how do when you say Ramsey Consultant, is that the David Ramsey? Okay, let's talk about that.
So the DISC consultant, so I'm a DISC consultant. What that means is I got certified with John Maxwell to be a consultant when it comes to DISC. DISC is a personality assessment. So I'm really big and heavy on understanding communication styles. And so DISC, there are 4 pieces to DISC, and that's what it is, DISC. And what I do is I work with clients and they can get a DISC assessment through me and help them understand what their personality assessment is. But it's so important because when you're working with people, whether it's in your job, even family, it's helpful to know what your style is and why am I not connected with this person, or how should I be connected with this person? So that's what a DISC is. The second piece is the Ramsey Preferred Coach is yes. So part of my philosophy and what I do is I work, I went and got certified with Dave Ramsey. For those who may not know, he really talks about his 7 baby steps, and I work with my clients on that. I got certified with him, and what that means is I follow his philosophies, and I am certified to not only use what he has in terms of his tools, but also I'm listed on his site as a financial coach as well.
So I do have thank you for that, because I certainly didn't know what it meant. I say, let me go ask her. Maybe I can fit it in somehow. My mother always said, if you don't know, ask, right?
Gotta ask.
So when you come across some clients who actually just felt like they didn't have any hope, and so if they call you or they walk into a consultation, what is it that you say to them to actually give them hope, that their ears open? Because some people are so far in debt sometimes that they just don't know how to get out of it. What do you say to those individuals?
So the first thing is listen. You got to listen. I think sometimes we're so quick to want to give an answer. My job is to listen. My job is to meet people where they are. And again, I get a lot of clients that don't have hope. And so, I can sit here and give them 1,000 different things to do, but they don't want to hear that. They just want somebody to listen first. Once I listen, then it's taking it in and understand the numbers. It's understanding where they are. It's also helping them understand it's going to take some time, and it's okay. But what I tell them is I'm your accountability partner. I'm going to walk with you through this. That's an important piece. So they have to know that somebody's going to be there and not judge them. A lot of what this is people do not want to be judged. I've had a client who at the beginning of our relationship, she said, please don't judge me. And I immediately said, if I judge you, then I should not be doing this work. This is not for me if I'm judging you. And so people don't want to be judged. They want to make sure somebody's there that's going to listen and they trust them. So I think the initial conversation is they have to believe that I'm here to help them, not judge them. I'm here to walk with them, be their accountability partner, and help them through the process.
So, Paula, thank you. And we have reached a portion of the show that I love. This is, I always like giving people information. I try to have a different person on every week to talk about different things. And, you haven't failed me. I always tell people I want to have the brightest and the smartest people on my show every week in and out. So I think that I have accomplished this again this week. So thank you, Paula. Thank you, Paula. So this is my favorite part of the show. And speaking of this, I'm probably going into this. My father's listening to it, and he listens to it every week.
Oh, hi, Mr. Beavers.
Hi, Mr. Beavers. So and my sister, but my father, this is his favorite part of the show, and this is the part of the show that we want to know more about our guests.
Okay.
And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you two items. I'm gonna ask about 6 questions. I'm gonna give you 2 items. Okay, you can only choose one. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So you ready?
I think so, but okay, let's go for it. Yes.
Oprah Winfrey or Michelle Obama?
Michelle Obama, Whitney Young in the house.
That's right. I forgot about that. You are a Whitney Young graduate. Okay. Forgot about that. Okay. Okay. Barry White or Stevie Wonder?
Oh, Stevie Wonder.
See, last week it was different. Harold Washington or President Obama?
Harold Washington.
Why? I'm just curious. I just want to ask. I'm just curious why you chose that.
Starts with him when I think about Chicago and Chicago politics. Starts with him.
Okay. So Aruba or Hawaii?
Aruba.
Why Aruba?
I've been there multiple times.
Have you there? You know what? I actually haven't been there. So that's one of my fantasy trips. I'm gonna laugh at this because there are people online saying, "Yay, Stevie! Yay, Michelle Obama!" So now I'm gonna get into a little bit of sports. Okay.
Oh God.
Chicago Bears or the Chicago Bulls?
So if my family is watching this, they're gonna say she's gonna say none, neither of them. But because the Bears won today, I'm gonna say Chicago Bears. How about that?
Okay. And Paula, we have one last question. Paula, what's your name and where you from?
I'm from Chicago on the south side. My name is Doretha.
Doretha in the house. Doretha. I'm gonna tell you, I'm about to cry. I'm about to cry.
I don't have a question. And Yvette called and told me that you, and I said I'm gonna call her. And when I saw Paula,
don't break me down right now. Don't break me down.
I'm gonna tell you. This is.
It's so nice to hear your voice.
Man, this was my mother's best friend in the whole wide world. I'm gonna tell you. This is hey, Doretha, you gotta be crying on the air. What's up with that? You gotta be crying on the air.
Oh God.
Okay.
It's good to hear you and it's good to see you. And Paula, you're looking more like your daddy every day.
Thank you.
This was definitely a surprise call. This has been like the best show ever. That's so. And
I'm not gonna hold you, but I just wanted to say hello to both of you. Eddie, congratulations.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
All right, bye, Doretha.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Bye. What a way to end the show. What a way to end the show. So Paula's mother, my mother, and Doretha were all friends for years and years and years. So that's why it's so special that Doretha called in. Whew. Okay, so again, you've been watching Ed, or listening to Ed Talk, where we talk about all things financial. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you again to my phenomenal guest and friend Paula Jenkins. And what we also always say is when we leave this show, Paula, you've seen the shows. What do I always say? How do I how do I always end my show? I'm gonna let you tell them.
Oh
How do
my
I always
gosh.
end my show?
Here we go. Peace.
Peace. Thanks, Paula. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.